All right, today I have Trevor Haugen here today. We're going to talk about, how did you get started, first of all?
Well, so in the industry and business are two probably different questions. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, I was fascinated with the video camera. This was, early 80s. I'm dating myself here. But my mom had one of those chonker, VCR, a VHS, home movie video recorders. And I just basically took it over, from her. And I'm like, I'm going to be doing the shooting now. And I would film my mom instead of her filming me. And then it was just a lot of, VHS tapes of me and my buddies making movies, growing up. And then getting older, I was, it was always one of those things where I was like, man, it would be so cool if I could actually make money doing, what I love. But it always felt so distant, especially being here in Utah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was always just kind of that question of do I go to LA? Do I make the move to Hollywood or whatever? But anyway, so I studied film and television just, to kind of see, maybe there is a place for me. And I just kind of fell into it and started working, doing wedding videos actually in 2002. So this is before the digital kind of crossover, So shooting a lot on mini DV tapes. And I feel like that is a great training ground for any videographers doing weddings. You think
hard.
quick on your feet, you got to get the moment. And did that from 2006 till about 2007 or 8. And then me and my little sister started a business together that was Haugen Creative in 2008. And we ran that till about 2016 or so. And then recently rebranded, and now we're Temple City Studios. And there's about 7 of us, and we do everything from pre-production, production to post-production, and working with a lot of talent that you guys work with. And luckily, we have you right in our back pocket. So, that's in a nutshell.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what is it like a daily, when you get a project that you've got coming in?
Yeah.
You get that phone call and say, hey, Trevor, we need this, and this. Mm-hmm. What is the first thing that you start? We want to talk about what is it like to be in your position. What is the first thing that you do?
Well, the first thing obviously is we do a discovery call with the client, right? And we go through the idea. We try to really figure out what the end goal is in mind, especially, in today's day and age with a lot of paid ads. We've noticed that a lot of times the advertising companies and the content creation companies aren't really communicating as much as they should. So we try to get a good idea of who the audience is, where this is going to live, who's going to be looking at this, and what's the goal, what's the call to action. And then we try to get, try to see the whole process all the way through, but very early on in that conversation, right, and in our discovery call is that question of, okay, what does the talent look like? There's always talent involved. Is this, are we talking internal talent? Is this, executives? We work with a lot of corporate, type projects. Are we working with, agency talent, voiceover, what does that look like? Kind of drill all of that down, and then it's, hitting the phones to calling people and making sure we got the right team, the right talent, and everything in place to not only get it done on time, but, in the budget that they're trying to make happen.
Casting the right talent for the job. What are the qualities in an individual that you look for?
So we do a lot of video, right? And so a photographer might be looking for different things, but a lot of times what I'm looking for, first of all, if I've worked with them before, that's a help, right? Because I can be like, okay, I feel comfortable with that person. I know they're going to deliver, right? But I don't always have that luxury. And so the second thing I'm looking for is a demo. If they have a video demo, that's a huge help. And then third is rehearse or auditions. If you guys, are able to send quick auditions my way, even if it's iPhone in the car, that's a huge help, because we're able to see kind of how they translate on screen, because how their photo looks and how they actually translate talking is very different.
Yeah.
Whereas with photography, you can get away with kind of looking at headshots okay, I can make this person work. But in working with film, commercials, television, we've got to see how that person moves around, how they sound, it could be totally different from what you're expecting, from a photo. So
what do you look for in a photo talent?
Okay, what I look for in a photo talent, and it's hard to tell from just looking at photos, right? But man, you can tell if you're working with a professional model or not, especially, man, when it comes to photography, because they just know their angles and they know how to just hit those looks really fast. Whereas if you're working with somebody that's a little more amateur, as a director, as a photographer, you've really got to pull that out of them, and you've got to be like, okay, let's go ahead and put your hand up on your hip. Now look back that way. Whereas somebody that's been doing this for years, they already know their 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of like go-to moves. And those are typically the moves that we're looking for anyway, and then we can kind of get spontaneous and have fun with it. But when somebody's got some, some background, some experience, and they just know kind of what the director's looking for the most part, it really helps with time and direction. Yeah, for sure.
So you cast the project. What's the next step?
So once we cast the project, I really like to get a script or an idea off to the talent, right, as soon as possible, to make sure the talent can run through it. And it's very obvious, right, when we show up to the shoot, if the talent has had time or if they have actually run through it. Some people are good enough where they can fake it, but for the most part, like, I can definitely tell if somebody's run through it a few times, even if it's not memorized, and I can appreciate it so much, because when you're getting on set, it's more than just, you and the talent. There's a full crew there, and everybody's time is going into this, and the client is paying for everybody's time, right? And so the smoother things can go on screen, the quicker we can get things done, and we can move through the process much faster, saving everybody time and energy and money. When we're waiting around for the talent to kind of get a line, even if it is teleprompted, I understand, talent not all the time, if it's teleprompted, they're not memorizing it or whatever, but man, it does make a big difference if they've run through it a few times, and maybe there's a word here and there that is different, it's a scientific whatever, and it's like, okay, let me look it up and get the pronunciation, let me pull up YouTube, how is that said? Just come with a few notes, just goes a long way.
So there are some things, being on time is really important because you're paying so many people.
Right, exactly.
What do you do with people that show up late? You never book them again?
Well, I mean, that's the truth. You know what I mean? True. Because you can make a name for yourself very quickly in this industry. It's, small lake city, we're it's growing, industry's growing, but at the same time, like, you get to know a few people, and, networks are everything. And so, I mean, I would say punctuality is a huge thing, because, it's a kind of a matter of respect, to everybody. But then also, if you're showing up not only on time, but early, I like to show up a little earlier. Not that I'm always, good at that, but I noticed that when I'm showing up, even 10 minutes early, I'm not only able to kind of spot some, like, problems now on set that maybe I wouldn't have caught, until, like, we're actually in production. But also it gives me a second to just, like, just breathe for a second and just be, like, in the setting, and you can ground yourself for a minute, instead of you're flustered, you're just off of a call, now you've got to, like, play this part or whatever. And sometimes I think, like, even if we've been doing this for years, 10, 15, 20 years, sometimes we can get a little too confident. Like, oh, I've done this before or whatever. But it never changes. You always can use that extra time, and it's always evident, I think, to others.
That's true. Yeah. You can release it. You can see it.
Yeah.
What do you think? What does your business look like going forward? Is there something that sets you apart from everyone else? I always like to give you the opportunity to share what's unique about you.
Well, I think what's unique about us is we're a small crew, but we like to do big projects. And so we have a music production and video production studio under one roof. And so we're very niche in our talents. We're a small crew of 7 people, but each individual is very good and very different in their unique abilities. And so anything from music, full music production, music video, to documentaries. We produced 2 documentaries last year. One may have won an award last year, which we're pretty excited about.
What was that?
It was Hairdressers Change the World. And it was a lot of fun. It was a local project, but so I think that's maybe something that sets us apart, aside from doing a little corporate commercial here and there. We love to tell stories, and we like doing those bigger projects on top of the smaller projects, of course, but yeah.
Well, that's awesome. is there anything else you want to share with me that I have?
Did I give you guys what you wanted? That's the question.
Yes.
I felt like I was just rambling.
No,
Oh my
you're not
gosh.
rambling. It's good.
Yeah.
We want to create that place where people,
Yeah.
it's like a platform where people can talk about our creative industry
Yeah.
because it's not easy.
No, it's not.
It's challenging.
Yep.
Every day.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
something different.
Absolutely.
And you have to adapt.
Yeah.
Do something that's
Yeah.
never been done before.
I think maybe, and this is just whether you use it or not, but kind of a question I have for you, I guess, is how are you guys adapting with AI? Because, we're having to adapt, I think everybody, especially in the creative world, but I mean, in every industry is having to adapt in some way, shape, or form. But, how we've really been adapting is in our writing process. We're using a lot of ChatGPT, which is saving us so much time. And then also in the storyboarding process, we're able to actually grab the talent that we're going to be using and bring them in and put them in different scenes in the storyboard. And so it looks kind of photorealistic so the client can kind of get an idea there. But I was curious about talent and voiceover artists, and I guess actors as well. If you've seen it starting to impact your business, or if you guys have gotten creative
Not yet.
in that space yet. Okay.
It really hasn't happened yet. I think that the pure authenticity of a human being is always going to be
Yeah.
imperative
Yes.
to production.
Yep. Yep.
There's going to be, I think it's going to have its own little niche,
I agree.
here.
Yeah.
But I think that people want connection.
Yeah.
And when
Right.
you're watching a commercial, a film, that connection piece is really important. And I think that certain AI can't replicate that and that reaction or
Right.
that, move forward. And so I think I think our business will always maintain that integrity, but we might have to adjust to where that moves because
Yep.
we don't know that yet.
Yep.
you know? But
And
they're
I
still
know, and I
working
love
on
hearing
it.
that because I'm that's kind of my spirit about it as well. Maybe it's how I, rationalize my fears of the future. But honestly, yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like with what we do, the human element is what makes it
It's
special.
what it is.
It's that
It's
human
the connection.
emotion and the
Yeah.
connection.
And the reaction.
Yeah. And I think the AI is just, it's just like any other tool. It's just come so fast and advance so fast, but it is another tool and you still need humans to prompt it and
You do.
direct it. You know what I mean? So anyway, I was just curious about
Yeah, it hasn't really changed much yet.
it has started to change what we do, but I don't think it would touch what you guys do as much yet. More than anything for us with the pre-production, like writers.
Yeah.
Writers are kind of seeing,
But the ideas still have to come from
you got to come from
the
somebody.
human. It comes
Yep.
from those shadows we experience.
Yeah,
Right? It also
right,
comes
right.
from growth in other
Right.
areas. And
Yeah.
without that, you don't have that.
Yeah.
That same movement.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think that's always going to be a part of our society and what makes film and television.
Sure.
It makes it interesting. And it touches you right here.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
I don't think that can be replicated.
I love that.